Hello out there. Welcome to Pcgtv Sports Time with Jerome. My name is Jerome Autry. Last week, we started a conversation on the Black Stars, and with my colleague, journalist Felix Romack, we looked at what is wrong with the Black Stars. Today, we are going to continue that search for the problem with the Black Stars, and with someone who is always with the Black Stars. We'll go for a short break. When we come back, I'll introduce him and the show will continue. Welcome back. For our scripture for today, I take you to Jeremiah chapter 10, verses 24, where it is written, "Correct me, Lord, but only with justice, not in your anger, lest you reduce me to nothing." Jeremiah 10, 24. That's our scripture for today. We'll go for another short break. When we come back, I'll introduce my guest. Welcome back. With me today in the studio to look at the issue of the Black Stars and a number of issues lined up is the communications director for the Ghana Football Association. He's a brother, he's a friend. We've been in this business for a very long time. And for me, it's a privilege to have him today speak to issues that virtually every Ghanaian football fan has been talking about for the last week or so. Mr. Henry Asante-Twum is our guest. Thank you very much for joining me today.
My pleasure, Jerome.
Yeah. And for those who don't know, Mr. Henry Asante is a Presbyterian. Yeah, he is. And if you find him laughing, don't think he's mocking the fact that he's a Presbyterian. There's one thing everybody who knows Henry knows. He loves to laugh. So it's not that. But as you may well know, football has taken him so much away from the church. But when he has time, he makes time for the things of God. Henry, once again, thank you for honoring our invitation.
It's a privilege to be here, Jerome.
I don't know how to start this conversation, but maybe the first question to ask is exactly what is wrong with the Black Stars. I mean, for some years now, it's been very difficult trying to see the Black Stars in the light that they used to be in, such that if not for anything at all or nothing at all, we go for a AFCON competition and the best we will do will be semi-final. Now we go and even winning a game there has been difficult. And as we find ourselves now qualifying for the next competition, the qualification series are not over. But where we find ourselves, it's looking more like it will be very difficult to go. What do you think has been the difficulty with the Black Stars?
Well, Jerome, I think that from where I sit, the easiest way of responding to your question is that I think we have not been able to manage the transition well.
Okay.
That's how I see it. This is because if you check our performance in the AFCON, for instance, as you indicated, for the past 6, 7, 8 editions, our worst performance has been a quarterfinal.
Yeah.
That was in 2019, when Kwesi Appiah was in charge of the team.
Yeah.
We lost to Tunisia on penalties and exited at the quarterfinal. And then the subsequent one, which was 2021 in Cameroon, we drew one game, lost 2, and exited. Then this year in Côte d'Ivoire, we drew 2 games, had 2 points, and then also exited. One thing that ran through that was very common when we were, on the rise and were doing well was consistency. So from 2004 when we didn't qualify, we had the squad from 2004 and then other players joining to form the nucleus of the team. Yeah. With just a few inclusions here and there. Unfortunately, under Dukovic in 2006, we couldn't make it from the group stage.
Yeah.
But we kept faith in that team and made it to the World Cup. And subsequently, they played in the 2008 AFCON. In 2008, we brought Agogo, we brought Quincy Owusu-Abeye, Eric Addo. Stephen Appiah wasn't part because he was injured at the time. Then in 2009, we had our under-20 team winning the World Cup in Egypt. Unfortunately, we lost Essien, John Pintel, Derek Boateng, Sule Muntari, John Mensah. And we promoted Jonathan Mensah, Rahim Ayew, Andre Ayew, Samuel Inkum, Ransford Osei and Co. And they went to Angola. We got to the final.
Yeah.
Then in South Africa, a core of these players represented us in the World Cup quarter-final. 2012 AFCON, same players, semi-final. We finished fourth after losing to Mali. 2013 in South Africa, we finished fourth again when we lost to Burkina in the semi-final.
Yes.
Under Kwesi Appiah.
Yes.
Then 2015, Avram Grant took over after our debacle in Brazil, and we got to the final one more time. But there is one thing that was running through: consistency. We had the core of the team. You have one or two players who will drop out, and then the inclusions are top notch.
Okay.
The Christian Achus, FEA, Africans, and what have you. So
from the narrative you have just given, it's so the consistency is in two ways.
Yes.
From what you are saying. One, we had a certain group of players who formed the nucleus
of the team,
who were consistently being called.
Yeah.
And not just being called. I mean, their
American,
performance was showing it.
Yeah.
And then when they come to consistently, their performance was impacting on whatever the team was doing.
Absolutely. At
At what point then was there a break in that consistency, which has led us to this point?
I think from 2019, 2020, you realize that after we failed to qualify for the World Cup in 2018, there were a lot of issues.
Okay.
And a chunk of those players who had represented us consistently also left the scene.
Okay.
I can mention a lot of names: Jonathan Mensah, Fatah Dauda, Samuel Inkum, Afo Harrison, Asamoah FEA Aqua, Richmond Boachi Adam, and then unfortunately we lost Christian Achu.
Yeah.
May he so rest in peace. But these players had played in 3-4 AFCON tournaments, but they got to the end of their career. So you realize that it started in 2019 when we played in the AFCON.
Yeah.
The transition from the older generation to the younger generation is what has landed us here.
Okay.
We have tried to fix the results immediately, but it hasn't been too good.
Is it the case that, COVID may have contributed to the delay in having the 2021 AFCON, but is it the case that some other factors other than we not maybe getting our players in that mode to progress?
Yes, I think there are some other factors. For instance, injuries.
Okay.
For instance, players who have had to switch nationality.
Okay.
Players who have had to change their environment all of a sudden and become Ghanaians.
Yeah.
It takes time for them to adapt.
And even
to
the
our
lack of
condition.
competitiveness
Absolutely.
on the side of some players.
So again, we had players who were highly competitive at their club sites back then. Montari, Appiah, Essien, and so forth and so on. We have had issues where some of our players have struggled to command regular playing time with their clubs.
Okay.
And sometimes also a major factor. Now we seem to have, solved or resolved that particular problem.
Okay.
Because now almost every weekend our players are active.
Yeah.
Jordan is playing, Fatawu is playing, Kudus is playing, Antoine Semenyo is playing, Iñaki Williams is playing. But it's about how to now translate from club performance to national team performance.
Okay.
That's what has landed us in this trouble. Again, from my scientific analysis, one point that I think has also affected us, it is not peculiar to Ghana, so it is quite subjective, is the fact that back then you have seven days to prepare for a game.
No, it's not.
The international break was long, such that you have a lot of time, the luxury of time to prepare for games. Sometimes 5 days, 6 days before your next game. Now it's not. The players play on Saturday, they arrive on Sunday, they are playing on Wednesday, or they are playing on Thursday.
Yeah.
Now, what happens at club sites is completely different from what happens at national teams.
team, of course. Yeah.
Some of them arrive. Sometimes I remember recently on our first day of training, we trained with 10 players. Then until the third day, we didn't have a full house. So it's possible that
Somebody came
late
just
a day before.
Yeah.
It happened when we played Nigeria in the World Cup playoffs. Jordan arrived on Wednesday. He played on Thursday. Recently, when we played Madagascar in Kumasi, again he arrived with Elisha Wednesday. We played on Thursday. You know, and this sometimes maybe the coach wants to tweak something, do something on the training ground. He doesn't have that opportunity. So I think that having assessed all the various points and all what have you, these are for me some of the factors that have landed us in this situation.
I like them because I think we, maybe in the heat of the disappointment, we all want to look at other things other than what the real issues are. But these are valid points which we'll be going into in the second part of the show. We'll go for a short break. When we come back, I'm going to ask Henry about coaching, whether he thinks that there has been a problem with that. We've established that consistency, the break in consistency in terms of the player quality, player availability, and all that has affected us. We'll look at coaching and see whether that has contributed to where we find ourselves now. Welcome back. So, in the first part of this show, my guest was talking about players and how the lack of consistency in that area has contributed to the fortunes of the team now. But I want to take your thoughts on coaching. If we are going to be honest with ourselves, and I'm going this way because I have read what the DIU, for instance, told the Parliamentary Select Committee on Sports and Culture after the AFCON 2021. And for him, his point was that we've not been consistent with having coaches around. So this coach comes, maybe 9 months is gone, another comes, 9 months is gone. And to him, that was a contributing factor to why we're not able to perform well at that AFCON. In the last 4 or 5 years, we've changed coaches like 4 times. Do you think that has also had a role to play in where we find ourselves now?
Well, sometimes when the players speak, you have to listen and listen good. So I respect that view.
Okay.
I know Dede is very much experienced, having played football for all these years, and his performance for the Black Stars for me is without a doubt one of the best.
Yeah. Over the last decade. I don't think there's any that beats him.
Commitment-wise, contribution-wise, and then the results have been very good. So I think we have to respect that.
Yeah.
Yes, to some extent, I agree.
Okay.
Jerome, I agree, because again, let me track back a bit. When we started the 2021 AFCON qualifiers, Kwesi Appiah played 2 matches. And he was gone. In his first game after the 2019 AFCON in Egypt, we beat South Africa 2-0 in Cape Coast. Then I think we went to Sao Tome and Principe, beat them 1-0.
1-0. Very difficult game.
And he was gone. I think we scored from a penalty. Jordan scored that goal. Then CK came in. When CK came in, I think CK played 2 matches or so.
Yeah, it was really patchy. I've forgotten the game
we played Ethiopia 1-0, difficult game in Cape Coast.
Sudan. So.
And then we beat Sudan 2-0. Yes, Sudan 2-0. And again, Andre scored both goals.
Yes.
And we went to Omdurman and lost by 1-0. And I remember the difficulty under which we traveled to Sudan that time. At the time we were traveling, we didn't have a goalkeeper.
Yeah.
And we had to make SOS calls. Eventually, Fatah Odauda came in to save the situation, and we traveled with him. We traveled to Sudan again without, I think, Jiku, Andre, and a host of other players. Jordan captained the team in Sudan.
And to put it in context, those were the times of COVID. COVID had hit so
At the time
badly,
we were traveling, we had 4 or 5 goalkeepers, players who had tested positive, and they couldn't travel. So those were difficult times. And so it took us two coaches to play the qualifiers. Then we moved into the World Cup qualifiers. CK started, he was off Milo came in off. Otto came to finish the World Cup qualifiers, finished the World Cup off. Chris came in, took us to the AFCON. But as for Chris, he was able to stay for that period. He played the qualifiers. We were able to go through. Then we went to the tournament. It didn't go well, and he left. Now, the reason why I agree to some extent, I agree with Andre, is that one, you do not have the luxury of time.
Yeah.
Two, every coach has his own philosophy.
Yeah.
And every time the players are learning something new.
Yeah. Chopping and changing.
Yes, chopping and changing, trying to tweak things, trying to move things, shifting players from either right or left or right, or putting players in different positions. And it takes a lot of time. Unfortunately, we do not have time.
Okay.
You know, so on that score, I perfectly agree. But sometimes when you are also in a position where you need results immediately, you cannot think twice, or
That's
you
true.
or the
You
public,
can't wait.
Yes, the public is pushing, government, the financier is pushing, the people are talking,
And your own standards.
and you also have a standard.
Yeah, your own standards.
And there is a reputation as well. Of
course.
And once you have a team like Ghana that is used to winning, you can't wait until let's give ourselves time and let's try and all of that. You know. So I think that is largely the contributing factor as regards the change.
But I mean, I like the fact that we've gone through some chopping and changing, and we've clearly seen that the results, I mean, haven't been any good.
Yes.
Do you think, maybe I'm not permitted to share my opinion here, so I'll put it to you. Do you think that in the midst of the struggle now, it's still wise and advisable to keep Otto Addo against the backdrop of where we are coming from?
Okay, so before his appointment, I had a brief from the ministry and the FA, the executive council for that matter, and first of all, the reason for going for Otto was because he wasn't new to the environment. He's a Ghanaian, and for that matter, he has a relationship with the players already. And then the second reason is that we have to think long term,
correct,
and not short term. So in the midst of this long term, there will be defeats, there will be victories, there will be challenges, there will be a lot of pain, a lot of disappointment, but we have to just stick to it.
Bear with it
and move and learn with time, you know. And that is the reason why he was given a 3-year contract for that matter, so that at least the first year we'll try and fix things. From the second year, we'll begin to push him to get us results. It's unfortunate that we've played 4 matches without a single win. I don't remember the last time we went through.
It's not characteristic.
Yes.
Of the Black Stars.
You know. And what saddens me as well is the fact that we've played 4 matches and scored 1 goal.
Yeah.
Very, very uncharacteristic, and it hurts a lot when you look at the quality at our disposal, and the exploits of our players abroad, and you juxtapose that to what is happening at the moment. Lost against Angola, drew with Niger, lost to Sudan, drew with Niger in Ghana. It is heart-wrenching.
You know, the irony is that some of these players who, when they come together and play in Accra, do not look like, players that are excelling in Europe. You flip the coin, they go back to their clubs, and everybody is scoring.
Let me share a story with you, Jerome. So we arrived from Sudan Wednesday morning around 3 a.m. And normally when we arrive like that, as part of my responsibilities, I need to speak to players and check what time are you leaving and all of that. I was there when a message dropped, an email dropped from Bournemouth that Antoine should return without an excuse immediately.
That day.
And they realized it wasn't possible for him to fly back to London at that time of the morning. Do you know what they did?
No.
They bought a ticket for him to fly to Nigeria that morning and pick a flight from Nigeria to
This is
London.
news to me.
Yes. And that's how valuable these players are to their clubs.
And he goes and
he went and they beat Arsenal.
Yeah, that game against Arsenal.
And yesterday he was adjudged player of the month and goal of the month and all of that.
So then It brings me to this third point, which some people have made, and I for instance, I have also spoken to that issue. Is there not a cause for concern back home how these players are managed? I mean, and here I'm talking about the management setup, the various systems at the FA or the various systems associated with the Black Stars, and how these qualities that we have are managed here. Is there not a problem? Maybe you are in there, you can tell us, because if what you are telling us, and I have no reason to doubt what you are saying.
Well, again, Jerome, there are a number of factors. Yesterday, I was talking to someone, and I tried to apply common sense, logical reasoning, and critical thinking. I was saying that I asked the person, don't you think that chemistry, relationship, teamwork is built over time?
I mean, it is.
In football.
There's no question about that.
Okay.
It is.
Again, you can even have chemistry, understanding off the pitch.
Yeah.
And I mean, yes, with all the years I've spent in football, I think that there was a point where we had a certain group of players who had chemistry off the pitch, and it inured to our advantage on the pitch.
That's true. That's true.
When Apia is in town, he goes to Lai's home.
Yeah.
When Lai is in town, he's always at East Legon visiting Apia. Same for Richard. Same for Peter Forikwe. Same for Essien. And the next day, you see them at Liberty Park playing football.
You know what? We'll go for a short break. I know where you are taking this to. And when we come back, I'm going to ask you this question because my mind is going back to some videos I saw of Samuel Jan, one of the AFCONs where he was polishing someone's shoe. They were, putting up jokes and very silly jokes. Some of them I can't even share here. Yeah. But, we'll come back and Henry Asante will continue that story for us. Welcome back. Before the break, Henry was telling me about the relationship between some of the players and the bond. And I was even alluding to that with some stories. So if that is missing, I'm trying to preempt you to think that has been missing with this team, especially with players that you would say some were not born here, some even if they were born here, they've been away for some time. Yeah. Now they have to find a way of coexistence. Yeah. So the point is that is also a contributing factor.
Absolutely. It is a major factor. And I was coming to something that I observed. Jerome, and again, let's not lose sight of the fact that our junior national teams have struggled for quite a long time.
Yeah. Yeah.
The last time the under-17 played in the World Cup was in 2017.
Yeah.
Two players who are now with the team. Okay, so Kudus was in that squad.
Yeah. Okay.
And Danlad was also in that squad. Today, Danlad is not with the team. He's been in and out of the team. But if you take that squad, it's only Kudus.
Everybody's gone.
Yeah, defenses and all of that. And then from that time, we've not been to any under-17 World Cup. But in the 93s, 95,
we were consistent.
Dankwe, Gordon Atram, Stephen Apia, and all of that. And we transitioned them from 17, 20, 23, and the Black Star. So they moved.
Sami Kufuor played at all levels of our national teams. Yeah.
And I think that is also a major factor. Once you don't start from scratch and you have to artificially create it at the top,
it's going to be difficult.
It becomes difficult.
So how do we mend the pieces you have identified? If our national teams, and just by way of information, our under 20 team is at the WAFU competition. They are doing well. The last time I checked, they had won their game. I think it was their second game they had won.
And yesterday they drew with Togo.
Yeah, so
and top their group.
Everything shows that they are making progress. How do we mend the pieces from the bottom, like you are saying? I know the FA has some juvenile programs going on, but do we have the time?
I think we have to be competitive again, especially at the junior level.
Okay.
Unfortunately for us, because of two things. One, the segregation of zones is worrying us a lot. So now you have Ivory Coast, Nigeria, and Ghana in one zone, and sometimes of these three, together with Burkina, Niger, and Mali,
The
also,
boogie ones.
only one will have to qualify.
Is it not the case that if you want to be the best, you must beat the best?
Absolutely.
I don't like the segregation,
Yes.
to be honest with you.
Yeah.
Because I think it's not helping. It's giving some form of advantage to the guys in the Kusafa region.
Southeast.
Yeah. And I think they are benefiting more
Yeah.
than us because we have better teams here.
Absolutely.
But using the same argument, if we have better teams, then Ghana must be better to beat the other better teams.
Last year when we beat Nigeria in the CHAN qualifiers, we beat them twice. In the World Cup and then the CHAN.
And the CHAN, yeah.
And till date, they haven't forgiven their FA president, for
That's
which
true.
reason he lost the presidency.
I see.
They don't understand why Ghana should beat them in the World Cup playoffs and also in the CHAN.
We are better than Nigeria. They should give us a break.
So Jerome, it's a very slippery issue, very thorny issue that needs to be checked and rechecked. And the last time I listened to the CAF president, he said the ESCO was going to look into it.
Yeah, because we cannot.
Because you cannot have Burkina, Cote d'Ivoire, Ghana, Nigeria, Niger, Benin.
Sometimes if you are not
competing
lucky,
for 2 slots.
Senegal and Mali.
Yes, and Senegal and Mali. But theirs is even quite, relatively is better than ours.
Okay.
There is Mali, Senegal, and the Gambia.
And it's the same. It's the same with the women's qualifications too.
And again, we are going to beat Nigeria in the CHAN qualifiers.
It shouldn't be because it's not as if Ghana is not. Ghana always loses against Nigeria. That's not the argument. The argument is that you want the
2
best.
or 3 of your best representatives always fall off.
Anyway, if we say we are going to go into this, I'm not sure we'll have the time to exhaust the issue. But so where do we go from here? Black Stars we have 2 games more to play.
Yeah.
Angola and then Niger. Angola will be away, Niger will be home. Do you think we stand a good chance of qualifying?
I think our chances are very slim. Our problem started the very day we lost to Angola. I've always said it.
No, I agree. If the African game, if you lose at home,
the very day we lost to Angola, that night I didn't sleep.
I can tell.
And I couldn't eat.
Yeah, I see you around, running and jumping anytime the team wins.
And when the president saw me in the dressing room looking very worried and dejected, he tapped my shoulders and said, cheer up, boy, cheer up. But having known the African terrain and how difficult it is, especially, and the most difficult thing is when you are playing a team away from home on a neutral ground. Like what happened against Sudan. They came fighting, and when we played against Niger, they didn't look like a team that was, rock bottom of the table. They gave it their all. And one funny thing, on our way back to Ghana, we sat with the Nigerians on the same flight. Some of them are Ghanaians.
Oh, I see.
Some of the players are Ghanaians who have naturalized for Niger, and they were telling us, Mama, drone Ghana match I know
that thing.
So they came into that game with a different mindset altogether. But we find we are in this situation because we didn't take advantage of our home matches.
I agree. How do we plot our way back? Should it be that a lot has happened in the last 20 years? We made 2 finals, we couldn't win. We've made multiple semi-final appearances. Maybe it's come to the time where when we have to say we don't have to qualify this time. We mend the broken pieces.
Well, Ghana has to be at every competition. We are a very competitive, nation. But if it is that we finish these qualifiers and we don't qualify, we are unable to make it to the AFCON, I plead the first thing that the FA needs to do, that I am part, that we need to do, is to speak to the conscience of Ghanaians. And appeal for time for the team to regroup and reconstruct. I think that's what we need to do. these players will be broken. I know that it will not be easy psychologically. Some of them were looking ahead to their first ever AFCON appearance.
yeah.
It wouldn't work, especially when we were so shameful in the last two. You would have loved to go there again and impress. But we have 2 more matches to play. Like I said, our chances are very slim. But we will fight until the end. We will play against Angola with our might, play against Niger in the last game with everything in us. And I like the attitude the standing captain in the last 2 games, took the decision to take that responsibility upon himself to apologize to Ghanaians. I think is the way to go. And so the 2 matches in November, we will give it our all. If it goes well, fine. If it doesn't go well, we just have to regroup and start the reconstruction ahead of the World Cup qualifiers in March.
That's true, and we have a very good chance of making it to the World Cup. I mean, the games just started. We played how many? Two matches.
We played
Or 3.
four.
4.
It's left with 6.
Yeah, that's a lot, and we can really get back if we decide to. And come on, Ghana has to be at the World Cup. A lot of people are looking up to that for many other reasons I can't talk about here. If Henry and his guys don't get us to US or Canada or Mexico, there'll be trouble. But this is where we end the first part of this show. We are going to come back next week with Henry Asante on different issues. We'll be talking about the Ghana Premier League, the Women's League. I think if you ask me, one area where the FA has done so well, it's women's football. And next week when we have Henry again, we'll look at that. This is where we close the curtains on Pcgtv Sports Time with Jerome. We say, in thy light, there is light. See you again next week.